Emily Hawthorne joins us now from Austin, Texas. She's a Middle East and North Africa analyst at Stratfor. That's a geopolitical intelligence platform. Emily, where do you even begin to determine what happened in Douma and who was behind the suspected chemical attack?
Well, when you look really back at the pattern of the Syrian government's suspected chemical weapons attacks against rebel forces throughout the country, there is a clear pattern of Syria using chemical weapons against rebel groups. And even though Russia has tried to say that they're guaranteeing the Syrian government is in compliance with a 2013 agreement on chemical weapons in the country, there are many, many signs that the Syrian government repeatedly uses chemical weapons against rebel groups. And just in January and February in the same area, in this area that is east of Damascus, we've seen the Syrian government use chemical weapons, or there's strong evidence pointing to that. So there is a clear pattern, and we do know that the Syrian government is working hard to consolidate rebel pockets into smaller and smaller areas in the north of the country.
Well, Western governments, or the United States for sure, they believe there has been a pattern here. But if you talk to the Russians and the Syrians, there's some pretty strong denials they had anything to do with it. But my question is, if it wasn't Syria, if it wasn't Russia, and if it wasn't the Iranians, then who?
Well, you do have Syria right now is a landscape for a lot of different warring actors, and we have had reports of the Islamic State using some mustard gas and other chemical agents. We've had reports of some of the rebel groups also using chemical weapons, but on this scale and the type of symptoms that we're seeing come out of some of the video and footage, it really points to likely use of chlorine gas. And on this scale, there aren't a lot of actors that have access to chlorine gas on the scale that was likely used, except for the Syrian government. So it is true there are a lot of different actors that are fighting against each other and have access to chemical weapons. But on this scale, it points to one likely culprit.
Understood. And talk to me about Israel allegedly behind this military strike on a military base. Of course, no comment from Israel, but they have been known to do this kind of thing before. What do you make of the timing, and did it have anything to do with the suspected chemical attack, or was this about something else?
Yeah, the timing is interesting. On the surface, if we had not had the reports of this alleged chemical weapons attack on Saturday, we still wouldn't be surprised by reports of an Israeli strike against the Stratfor air base. This is an air base that Israel alleges that an Iranian drone was launched from this airbase and entered Israeli airspace in February. Israel has an established pattern of striking strategic assets that are connected to Hezbollah, connected to the Iranian government in Syria to protect itself. And Netanyahu, the Israeli prime minister, just today was saying Israel is always going to protect itself against threats. So even if we had not had the chemical weapons attack on Saturday, creating a potential window of opportunity, Israel probably still would be conducting these sorts of strikes. But it does potentially mean that Israel was using a window of opportunity to conduct this strike.
And what do you expect this White House, the Trump White House, is going to do? What kind of decision are they going to make in the next 24, 48 hours?
We do have the pattern, of course. One of your correspondents mentioned, almost exactly a year ago, we were looking at a similar situation where there was a chemical weapons attack with a lot of signs pointing to the Syrian government as the culprit. And Washington launched Tomahawk missiles at a particular airbase in Syria as a punitive measure. It is very likely that we see another such punitive measure as a way of trying to say firmly that Washington and other Western actors are not going to stand by and let this type of attack on civilians happen. That is what we're watching and waiting to see over the next 24 to 48 hours. So we do have a pattern of activity, and that's really that type of punitive one-for-one strike to try and discourage the use of chemical weapons is what we expect to see.
All right. Emily Hawthorne joining us live from Austin, Texas. Thank you.